how does this bald, skinny man from West Yorkshire know anything about building muscle? Here's some of my clients that struggled to build muscle in the past that have made massive progressions in building muscle when operating with the system that I use, which isn't anything fancy, it's just everything I've spoken about in this video. Yes guys, welcome back to another educational YouTube video, and today I'm going to be talking about building muscle, which is super fitting right now because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So, how to build as much muscle as quickly as possible. So I'm going to start this off by saying, if you are not already lean and you're wanting to start lean gain phase and building muscle, then please go watch my other video on getting lean first. I believe it's like my last 1 or 2 videos before this. Start there, because if you're not lean already, you're not setting yourself up to build as much muscle as possible this year. Okay, let's dig into some of the biggest mistakes first around trying to build muscle, and a lot of these I've made myself. So mistake number 1 is focusing not enough on getting stronger in the gym. Now, progressive overload, which is essentially the process of adding reps, weight, sets, progressing in some manner week to week, is a key principle when it comes to building muscle. And a big mistake I used to make when I was in my teenage years, I started watching bodybuilding stuff, especially Dorian Yates stuff, and I was super keen on making sure my technique was perfect. And if you're quite a neurotic individual, if you're a bit of an overthinker and you're trying to make everything perfect, being a control freak, this can actually be a problem for you, especially if you didn't really have like a technique issue to start with and you start overcorrecting. It's exactly what I did. And I wouldn't let myself progress in weight because I was so focused on making sure everything was perfect to the nth degree. Now, your technique needs to be good. It's great. It's good if it's great, but make sure that you're still progressing in weight, reps, or sets every other week at the very least, especially if you're a beginner. So you got to get stronger, right? The way I sort of explain it to clients is when I used to PT them in the gym. Okay, you can press the 25 kilo dumbbells now for 8 reps. Your technique's good. If you can do the 40 kilo dumbbells, you're going to have a bigger set. You're going to have a bigger chest. You're going to have bigger shoulders. You're going to have bigger triceps. There's no two ways about it, right? You never see someone add 10, 15 kilos to the dumbbell bench press with the same technique and not build muscle. So, number 1, make sure you get stronger. Mistake number 2 is focusing too much on getting stronger at the expense of technique going to shit. So there's obviously a line with this, right? We obviously want to make sure that we are progressively overloading, getting stronger over time, progressing as lifts, but we don't want to do it in a way where we start to squat looking like a baby giraffe taking a shit. We don't want our technique to go to shit. As soon as you start risking injury, no matter how strong you start getting out the gate, if you get to week 8 and you're injured for 3 months, you're no use to anyone. It's very difficult to make progress in muscularity if you're injured all the time, right? So there's a fine balance for that. Make sure your technique's good, make sure it's safe, and then as long as it is, progress your lifts, make sure you're controlling weight and getting stronger over time. Mistake number 3 is gaining weight too quickly in a lean gain phase when you're trying to build muscle. I've been here as well, and I tell you what, the actual results you get in the short term are bloody awesome. I've done it where I've gained a kilo a week for 10 weeks, gone from 90 kilos to 100 kilos, and all my lifts have flown up. Now, there's no doubt I will have built some muscle in that time frame, but the majority of the benefits I'll have gained will have been from, 1, eating more than enough to recover, but 2, just my leverages change. As you get fatter, your leverages change. So it's almost like as you get fatter, say for example, you're doing a barbell bench press, quite an easy example. You get fatter from front to back, there's less range of motion. Your forearms press against your biceps because there's just more of you, whether it's fat or muscle, and it becomes easier to lift more weight. So some of it's not even new muscle being built, it's just you getting fatter over time. And the issue with this, right, is just like me in that scenario, right? As soon as I got to around 100 kilos, between 100 and 105 kilos, about 10, 12 weeks into this process, I was like, fuck, I'm too fat. And you can't push any further because you don't want to, as long as you don't want to get any fatter, right? I didn't want to get any fatter anyway because I want to look good, I want to feel good, I want to be muscular, but not a big fat bastard. And I definitely was going into the fat bastard realm. So what happens is you then cut all the way back down, and 60% of the strength you gained, or 30% or 40% of the strength you gained, whatever, you lose it because it wasn't actually new muscle that was gained, it was just leverage from being a big fat motherfucker. So gaining too quickly is a big issue. It really stunts how long you can gain for. It really stunts how long you actually make progress for. And yeah, over the short term, you might make great progress, but then over the 6 months time period, you'll have done much better having an alternative solution. Now that brings me on to mistake number 4, and that is not wanting to gain any body fat whatsoever, staying too lean, staying too slim. Now, yes, you can actually build muscle, despite what people may say. You can actually build muscle when you are at maintenance calories. However, it's very difficult to stay, and the reason why you can is because you're eating enough food to fuel performance, enough food to maintain your current body weight, and you can build muscle and drop body fat at the same time. However, riding that line is so difficult, and it's even really difficult in a very slight, tiny surplus, to the point where some days you'll be in a deficit, some days you might be in a surplus, some days you might be at maintenance. And it ends up being not very productive because, yeah, you might build some muscle, but you're leaving a lot of gains on the table, especially the days and the weeks where you might actually be in a slight deficit, right? It's very difficult to get perfectly right as that. So, there's mistake number 4. We don't want to do that one. We don't want to be staying lean all year, but not really changing either, okay? We want to get strong. We want to fuel the performance and build some good muscle. Now, mistake number 5, and this is one that I actually made even in the last few years, whenever I transitioned from what I was doing powerlifting training over to trying to develop my physique and build muscle, and that was not doing enough volume. I think something that's highly popularized, especially in the UK, probably down to people like Dorian Yates, Jordan Peters, is like a lower volume approach to training. Now, volume is an important thing when it comes to building muscle. And it's often forgotten, right? We often get obsessed, especially in the UK, like I said, with progressing the logbook, getting stronger over time, which I've just spoken about. It is very, very important. However, if you do more sets, more working sets for a specific muscle group, as long as you can recover from that and still progress your logbook, you will benefit more from that than doing less sets, okay? The research is there on this. It's quite clear now. So if you want to build as much muscle as possible, doing more sets is a great way to do that, as long as you're not picking up niggles and injuries and you're still able to progress your logbook. So a big mistake I made was I'd come over from powerlifting training, start doing bodybuilding style training. My logbook would be progressing great, mainly due to doing new exercises. But then over the course of like a year or so, I noticed my physique wasn't changing as much as I would like. Now, obviously this is a case of like just training for a number of years as well, like progress is going to stall. But it was a massive mistake made on my part because I could have been doing more. So now what I'm doing is I'm progressing my number of sets per week up. And as long as my logbook is going in the right direction still and I'm recovering from it, I'm going to keep doing more. Now, there will be a point at which you won't be able to recover anymore and you'll find out where that is. But until you find that ceiling, I highly suggest, especially you more advanced guys, that you try and play around with this, especially on smaller movements or lower fatigue movements. Try and do more sets, see how you recover, see if you can still progress your logbook doing that. So, what do you actually need to do? Well, like I said at the beginning, get lean first. From there, it's a case of, okay, set up your training where you're doing 6 to 20 reps per exercise. Now, the reason why I say 6 to 20 is if you're doing less than 6, you're going to start using weights that are that heavy where there is a higher risk of injury. And if you start doing more than 20 or even more than 15, sometimes for a lot of guys, unless you're very cardiovascular fit or you've got a really good technique or you're really advanced, you might find it difficult to maintain the same level of technique as you get to like 15 to 20 reps. Because of the fatigue, you might end up getting out of breath, especially on something like a leg press. Your fitness or some other quality might give in before the actual muscle going to failure does, okay? So 6 to 20 reps or 6 to 15 reps, probably go, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, just to keep it simple, I'd go anywhere from I'd aim for 8 to 15. If some sets are slightly under, that's fine. If some sets are slightly over, that's fine as well. But I'd go 8 to 15, right? That's number 1. Add in more sets per week as long as you are recovering from the volume and you progress in your logbook. Pick exercises that you get on with. And what I mean by that is actually trust your gut. If something feels good and you don't get any joint pain and you got feedback that your technique doesn't look completely shit, then roll with that, okay? I was very pressured mentally into thinking I had to squat for years. Great example. It just didn't get on with me. Recently, I even thought, right, I've got a hack squat, because that's what everyone with big legs does. My right quad doesn't get on with it, okay? I much get on better with a pendulum. So you got to listen to your body and pick exercise that you get on with personally. Ultimately, there's no point trying to push a lift that doesn't feel right and you feel like you might injure yourself and you don't get as much out of. So pick the exercise that you get on with personally. Next up, aim to train all your muscle groups twice per week if you can. If time commitments don't allow this, or you've got a muscle group that you can't train more than once a week just yet because of previous injuries, that's fine. But aim for twice a week. It's a good spot to be in order to progress all your lifts and make as much gains as possible. And the reason why we say twice a week rather than just once, if you have 104 opportunities to progress a muscle group per year rather than 52, the chances are you're going to be able to make more progress. And the quality of work is going to be better split over 2 sessions as opposed to just one. Calories and gaining weight. So what you want to do is you want to be lean first, like I've said a million times already, but then you want to be in a calorie surplus where you're gaining a small amount of weight per month. Around 1% of body weight per month is going to be a really good spot to make sure that you're still gaining and making progress. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, up to 2% a month maximum. So just for context, if you're 80 kilos, let's say, you want to gain about 1.6 kilos a month. It's probably a good point in order to build muscle and know that you definitely eat enough food. If you want to be on a more conservative point and go a little bit leaner, but you risk potentially being a deficit sometimes, aiming for 0.8 kilos a month if you're 80 kilos, okay, for that example. But 1 to 2% of body weight per month is a good spot to be in. But if you want to be safe with it, probably 2% going to be a lot safer for most of you guys to make sure you're definitely in a surplus and moving in the right direction and eating enough to recover. Next up, sleep. So quite interestingly, you often find that people that are trying to optimize for strength, such as powerlifter, strongman, if you don't sleep enough, you're more likely to get injured just to the nature of the movements, and it's harder to progress. And I believe some of that is down to the coordination of some of these free weight movements and how much more fatiguing they are on the whole system as a whole. Whereas bodybuilding, more physique development, obviously sleep is super important still, but I've often found anecdotally and with client experience that you might be able to get away with slightly less sleep, albeit not the optimal thing to do, and still progress a lot of these lifts and progress your physique. Now, with that being said, aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Get as much as you can, ideally, but 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night is going to be a great spot to be in. If you're going through a period of getting 6 to 7 hours of sleep, you still probably can see progress. If you're getting less than 6 hours, you're really fucking yourself, okay? If you're getting less than 6 hours, you're really shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to progressing your physique, muscularity, and all that great stuff, okay? So 7 to 9 ideally, at least 6 to 7 if possible, especially if you're going through a phase of having children or working extra time, things like that. Never let yourself dip below that 6 mark. And that's actual sleep, not sleep opportunity, which I can talk about in a separate video. And just in case you're wondering, how does this bald, skinny man from West Yorkshire know anything about building muscle? Here's some of my clients that struggled to build muscle in the past that have made massive progressions in building muscle when operating with the system that I use, which isn't anything fancy. It's just everything I've spoken about in this video. Right, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you took something from it. And hopefully we all build plenty of muscle this year and get super jacked. Please share this on your Instagrams. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like it, comment what you want to see next, and I shall speak to you soon. Let's go.